as president, I intend to work with you to write the next chapter in the story of American innovation. That's part of the reason why I'm running for president of the United States. To seize this moment, we have to ensure free and full exchange of information. And that starts with an open internet. I will take a backseat to no one in my commitment to network neutrality. Because once providers start to privilege some applications or websites over others, then the smaller voices get squeezed out and we all lose. The internet is perhaps the most open network in history, and we have to keep it that way.
The word Obamacare strikes fear and loathing into the hearts and wallets of many Americans. Now prepare yourself for what very well could be Obamacare for the web. All right, don't roll your eyes. This will affect every American who gets one sliver of information from the internet. Welcome into MidPoint, the chairman of NetCompetition and former Deputy U.S. Coordinator for Communications and Information Policy in the first Bush administration. Scott Cleland joins us today. Scott, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Ed.
Scott, I'm going to first of all start out by putting up a graphic that I want our audience to see, because this always comes down to the phrase net neutrality. And I'll be very honest with you, I have a lot of people who, when they hear it, their eyes do glaze over. So here's the graphic now, and I want people to look at this. This defines net neutrality. I'm going to ask you a question on this, Scott. Internet service provides ISPs and governments ought to treat all data on the internet equally, not discriminating or charging differentially by user, content, site, platform, application, type of attached equipment, and modes of communication. In plain terms, it means the internet should be free, open, and balanced to all. That comes from Tim Wu, a Columbia University media professor in 2003. All right, Scott, here you go. In 10 words or less, Joe Beercan and Jane Beercan sits in front of the television set right now and wants to know what the worst thing is and what net neutrality is and how it's going to affect them. Can you do that?
In 10 words?
Well, okay, I'll give you 20 words, okay, but just simple words, because people always want to know exactly what it means to them.
You should have the freedom to go to any legal website or use any legal application on the internet. And there's broad consensus for that.
Okay, now that makes it very clear to people, because we're talking about ease of access in order to get there. So what is it that the Federal Communications Commission is now getting involved in that would change that?
Well, you have to understand the person you were quoting was Tim Wu, who invented the term. So it was invented, and he is very extreme left. And you have to understand that, and to understand that he wants the internet access to be a public utility, like gas, like electric, like water. That's what this issue is about, and that is what the FCC is considering now. The technical term is, should internet service providers be regulated like a telephone monopoly was under Title II of the Communications Act? Basically like a common carrier utility. That is the battle that is going on right now in simplest terms. Should internet access be regulated like a utility or not?
All right, now, Title II by the FCC. If indeed the internet then does come down under Title II, what would happen to it from what we know right now?
Well, it's the antithesis of everything we know about the internet. Why there's a debate over a free and open internet is semantics. I and most people that know net neutrality think it means freedom. To the Tim Wus of the world, it means free, meaning no cost, meaning free lunch. When I say open, and what most people historically, when they said an open market, that means an unregulated market. When Tim Wu and the left, the extreme left that support this, like free press and public knowledge, what they mean by open is no permission required, no property allowed. They mean it as a commons, a digital commons. That's why there's a dispute, is people are using the same terms but believe different definitions. And that's why there's so little agreement on this. Because I'm somebody, I believe everybody should have the freedom to go legally where they want and do what they want on the internet. What Tim Wu is really saying is he wants it to all be no cost to the user and no cost on either way. that it's this no-cost digital commons to everybody.
Well, it sounds to me as if you say to the consumer that it would be no cost to them. You're going to get the consumer on your hands or on your side pretty quick.
Well, then the question they ask is, is there a free lunch? Is there a utopia? The internet infrastructure has cost, it's probably valued at $500 billion or more right now. So it's literally one of the largest private investment that's ever been done in the history of the world to build and I would say it's probably closer to $600-700 billion in its value. Now, if you're saying that should be free, you're basically telling all the companies that produced it, all the telephone cable and wireless companies that produced it, you can't charge for it. It should be free to everybody. And what do you think would happen to the value of that? It would crater. What do you think anybody would be interested in upgrading it and improving it and allowing any innovation? No. I mean, it's much like basically going to the healthcare system and not doing Obamacare, but saying all healthcare should be free. Everybody involved in it shouldn't expect to earn a dime. It should be free. Now, it's just utopian silliness to think that you can have something that costs $600-700 billion to build, and it's worth that right now, that somehow it can operate long term with no income.
All right, now let's look at an executive order here because I want to show our viewers something here. Executive agencies. This is Executive Order 13563. Don't worry, there won't be a test on that later, everybody. Executive agencies should propose or adopt a regulation only upon a reasoned determination that it benefits justify its cost, and use the best available techniques to quantify anticipated present and future benefits and costs as accurately as possible. Again, I'm going to ask you if you would to please put that into regular English for the consumer so they can understand exactly what that means.
Regulations should be common sense. They should only be done when the benefits outweigh the costs. That's what that executive order said. And in this instance, this is all pain and no gain. It's mostly all cost for no benefit. That's because all of the things that Tim Wu and his friends charge are hypotheticals and haven't happened. For over 8 years, they've been saying that the sky is falling and that people aren't going to be able to have freedom on the internet. It hasn't happened. It's only expanded. And they want on a fear, a hypothetical fear, to basically take away the property rights and all other rights of the people who provide the internet infrastructure that everyone uses and needs every day. It makes no sense.
Is this indeed, as some have charged, what they consider to be a slow lane to the internet? There are those who say that this will slow the speeds. You've already talked about limiting the content here and what people can access, but will this simply just make it, I mean, some people right now will tell you when it comes to the internet, they're swimming in mud. Will this make it even worse?
Well, that's just not true in the sense, when they say slow lane, fast lane, once again, this is their words to say, we want a zero price for downstream traffic. That's what it is. They want the government to set the price that all ISPs for downstream incoming traffic to be zero permanently, forever. Why do they want that? Well, Netflix, Google, YouTube, Yahoo, Amazon, they would like to do video distribution to consumers, and like just Yahoo and Netflix together represent 50% of the downstream usage of the internet, and they want to not pay a penny for that. Now, once again, it's great for them. It's bad for consumers, because then consumers are left shouldering the entire burden of the cost of maintaining and upgrading the internet infrastructure.
Scott, I got about 30 seconds left here, and people are asking, and there's been some people who say that this will make the American internet much like China. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think it would be worse than China in the sense that China has been modernizing and investing in whatever. If this happened, it would create a mother may I structure where everything, anytime you want to construct something, you want to price it, you want to add set terms and conditions, you have to ask for permission from the FCC and big government, and you wait months or potentially years for an answer. And so it is the anti-innovation, anti-progress, anti-commercial freedom proposal. It's one of the worst ideas I've heard of in my life.
Once again, all it is just government intrusion, which so many people have been fighting against for so long and will continue to fight it every single day. Scott, thank you so much for joining us. It's a fascinating subject, and it's one I think that people need to pay a little bit closer attention to because, quite frankly, we get everything off the internet these days, and we've got to watch and see where it's coming from. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, coming up next, the trek to Outland and the search for a certain comic to say something, anything, funny. Granted, this comic may have said something funny at one time, but this comic may not be saying a whole lot that is funny right now. You'll get to be the judge in Outland right here as MidPoint continues.